Hi guys, so GB News reporter Chris Hope got an interview with Keir Starmer where the Labour leader was asked about Brexit. Now the questions were pretty terrible, as you'd expect from such a channel, but Starmer attempted to allay fears Brexiteers might have that he might try and get Britain back into the EU, the single market or the customs union. While I believe the response given certainly isn't for rejoiners, be them inside or outside the Labour Party, but equally the answers provided aren't for Brexiteers. I believe Starmer is trying to reach out to people who perhaps voted Brexit and Tory and aren't happy with either result. Have a listen.
So on to your speech here in Liverpool. You mentioned Brexit in your speech just once, but you said here in 2018 at the party conference that you weren't ruling out a second referendum. If you're Prime Minister, if you're elected Prime Minister, you'll be renegotiating the trade and cooperation agreement in 2026.
No, he will not. My goodness, how many times do we have to say this? It will not be a renegotiation, it will be a review. Both sides, the European Union and the UK government, will sit down, probably Keir Starmer or his administration, will sit down and they will review what went well and what did not go well within the TCA. It's not a renegotiation. What didn't go well, they will review and they will decide, okay, how can we improve on that? And before that, the reporter mentioned about how, well, in 2018 you wanted a second referendum. In 2018, the UK had not left the European Union at that stage. So the situation changed. And Keir Starmer is talking about not wanting another referendum because, well, the UK is no longer a member of the European Union. You can't stop Brexit now. Brexit has happened to a certain extent. So it's ridiculous to raise the point about 2018 because Britain was still a member of the European Union and there was still the possibility of having a second referendum in order to stop Brexit or to allow people to continue with the madness of Brexit.
What will you do with that? Will you try and get the UK more closely aligned to the EU? Would you even try and reverse the result in 2016 and go back into the EU?
We will not try to reverse the results. We do not intend to go back into the EU and for that matter, into the single market or the customs union.
It's a very good answer. We don't intend. Anyway, it's not up to Keir Starmer whether the UK rejoins the single market, the customs union or the EU. It's actually up to the EU whether the UK rejoins or not. So the UK can hold a referendum. They can start the negotiations, but at the end of the day, it will be the EU that will decide whether the UK can join.
That doesn't mean I don't think we can improve on the deal that we've got. And I think whether you look at security, whether you look at arts and innovation or trade, almost everybody thinks there's room for improvement. We saw that to an extent in the protocol that the Prime Minister renegotiated earlier this year. But we're not arguing, we're not making the case. There is no intention to return to the EU.
And do you get Brexit? Do you understand why the vote happened? Do you understand the reason for Brexit in the first place?
I think behind the vote was a deep sense across the country of an inability to influence things in their own lives, their own communities. And that's why yesterday was so important for me to set out a case which said, look, we've had 13 years of decline. Now I'm putting on the table 10 years of national renewal. It's also why you may have noticed I reached outside of the conference hall into the country and invited Conservative voters, people who voted for other parties, to join us to make this clear that this is a national project. Everybody who cares about their country, cares about the future of their community, is welcome to join us in what will be a national project.
Very good response. It's interesting how he also mentioned about how it's about reaching out to people. Of course, there are certain groups like rejoiners who, well, they're going to vote probably for the Labour Party, but in England. But there are the Brexiteers, the people who still think Brexit was a good idea. They're not going to vote for Starmer because they don't believe him. And they deeply distrust him when it comes to Brexit in particular. They believe that he wants to pull us back into the European Union. He wants to enter the European Union by the back door or something like that. But this message is not for them. This message is for ordinary people who voted for Brexit, believing the lies of Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, and Jacob Rees-Mogg, believing that things would improve, things would get better, and now seeing that they haven't. And also, like he said, when it comes to the Tories, he reached out to the Tories saying, look, if you want to have better government, you should vote for the Labour Party. Join us. You know, you have been betrayed. You have perhaps been voting for the Conservatives over the last 13 years, and they have thrown you under a bus. But we will work with you. We will try and improve the country. So the answers Starmer has given here are really good, because he's not dismissing Brexit. He's not dismissing the problems of Brexit. He's saying in a sort of secret way that things are not working out with Brexit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and improve on that. Now, that the areas that he's going to improve on are extremely limited, and it still, of course, depends on whether the EU is willing to renegotiate, for a better choice of words. Because Starmer can say, this area we're not happy with. But if the EU is okay with it, well, then you're not going to be able to change anything. So the UK will have to give something in order to receive something in return. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.